Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's Lunch and Learn. I'm Lauren Smith with the International Franchise Association, and we have a great 30 minutes lined up for you. Before we begin, I would like to let everyone know that we are recording today's webinar and will make it available later this evening on community.franchise.org. If you have any questions for today's speakers, please add them to the chat box and they will be addressed towards the end. Today's topic is Spark Revenue, Generating Supplier-Franchisor Relationships, and it is brought to us by AnswerConnect. Here to provide today's discussion is Karen Booz, Franchise Director of Strategic Partnerships at AnswerConnect, Derek Abelman, Marketing Manager of Northeast Color, and Jack Monson of Ularity. Thank you all for joining us today, and thank you AnswerConnect for sponsoring today's Lunch and Learn. I'll go ahead and turn things over to you, Karen.
Thank you, Lauren. We're very happy to sponsor this, and I'm very proud to be with my good friend, Jack, and my also very good friend, Derek. And we do have a relationship. And so we thought, what a perfect way to share some of the things that we've learned in our relationship building amongst suppliers, in addition to our relationship building with franchises. And those relationships thrive when each party is dedicated to continuously discovering and developing the relationship. So today we thought we would discuss a little bit about the relevance of the relationship build and the systems that come at every stage of the maturity growth. So this session will provide insights and best practices, and I'm excited to find out, Derek, if you would start us on best practices.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you for having us, Karen. And it's a wonderful opportunity for us to join this group and to speak with the membership of the IFA. So one of the first things that we've talked about, which I think might just be the next slide right there, is listen, don't wait to talk. And so on our side of the fence in Northeast Color, which we produce branded interiors for the franchise industry, which means all of the signage elements and branded elements that go into a location. And one of the parts of our onboarding process is doing a signage audit. So that means we go through everybody's package, we take a look at what materials and what applications we're seeing in the field. And that process can be somewhat lengthy, right? It's not too long, it's not too involved, but it really is the foundation of our relationship. And it gives us an opportunity to understand not only the brand and what's important to that brand, but the people behind the brand and the people that we'll be working with throughout the course of our relationship. So it's really important to us in that moment and in that phase to listen, to really listen, not just wait to speak, but to really listen, because the advantage that we're going to get out of understanding our client better will just really pay out across the entire franchise network and over the course of our relationship.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, Derek. There's a quote from Hemingway that's almost 100 years old now about most people listening with the intent. Most people don't listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. And it's almost like, I think he was predicting social media or cable news debates, right? And when we're working with a client, when we're doing some sort of relationship building, you can't make it like a cable news debate. You really have to listen to what their problems and needs are and not just wait to give your answer or jump in with some comment. I think the best way to start listening that way is to realize that everything you're doing when you're building a relationship is you're here to help them, right? You're not here to help yourself. You're not even here to help your company. Sorry to say. That will come at the end, right? Serve the customer first, the relationship will follow, and then business will follow after that.
I agree with both of you. And I think mindfulness is what I heard from both of you. Be mindful, especially now that we've gone virtual and we're just now getting back into the world, being in the moment and listening. When you're in the moment and you're multitasking, sometimes you can hear what they say and sometimes you think you hear what they say. And so I think it's really important to be engaged and to be responsive in asking your questions to get clarification, and that will definitely build the relationship. So I love that. Thanks, guys. So setting expectations, Jack, talk about how you set expectations when you meet and build relationships with your partners.
Yeah, I think the first thing I like to do is to tell them up front exactly what we do. You know, I'm Jack. We enable franchisees to do social media ads, Google ads, display ads, YouTube ads. If they ask about things that we don't do, I try not to go down the road that I see a lot of suppliers going down and saying, yeah, sure. Yeah. Oh yeah, we can do that. Websites, SEO. Yeah, let us think about that. No, if that's not your core competency, if that's not what you do, let the client know upfront that this might not be the right fit for them. Maybe offer to help find someone who could do those other services that you're not currently doing, but let them know upfront what your core competency is, why you're good at that, why other people use you for that, but don't lead them down the road that you're this turnkey one-stop shop for everything, because no one truly is.
Right. I agree with you. Don't be afraid to let the potential client know that you're not a good fit, and acknowledge the pain points. And in my area, provide a referral. You know, share information with other suppliers. This partner might be a better supplier, a better fit with you, but tell them no, and don't be afraid of that word. And I think it brings a lot of respect and builds on that relationship. So Derek, why don't you pop in and share some of your insights with us?
Well, I mean, we're very much in alignment, and I think for us, being candid and being that frank about it helps build the credibility, because you aren't necessarily saying I can't do that or I won't do that. You're saying maybe this is exactly what I will do for you, and if it's beyond that, I'm going to turn you over to exactly the right partner for you. That really demonstrates that your value is not only in your core competency, but that you're looking out for the relationship, that you're looking out for that client, that you're looking out for their best interests, that you're there to serve them and their brand. And for us, because we produce the branded interiors and the signage, what we focus on is translating the brand into signage, right? And sometimes our clients want us to do lots and lots of design work with building their brand, particularly emerging clients. And while we're happy to help, translate that into signage, we're very clear that we're not here to replicate the work of your marketing team or your advertising agency. Because not only do we respect the brand and our core competency, but we respect the work that others have done. And that if we begin to, I think, if our reach exceeds our grasp, we're going to, one, insult the brand, insult the work of other professionals, and also, I think, discredit ourselves because we weren't sincere in that moment. And it's sometimes challenging to say no, right? You don't want to disappoint a client, but it's better to, I think, give them what they actually need than it is to make yourself feel better about who you are or what your company is in that moment.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think we're all definitely in alignment with those commentary pieces. So mistakes are inevitable and they are healthy. And I think we've all been in this position before. And for me, this starts actually in the sales process, where I will let people know we're human and we are going to make mistakes. Give us feedback. And if we make a mistake, we're going to let you know as soon as we can. And I think acknowledging the mistake and gathering feedback to give to the stakeholders on both sides is very important. And then realign as soon as possible to continue to build on that relationship. And then, of course, always share. I don't think you can communicate too much in this realm, but Derek, why don't you go ahead and start and share what your opinion is or what your insights are on this?
Yeah, I feel it's super helpful to begin by admitting that mistakes will happen at some level. And I think that working in the franchise industry, what we're really talking about at every point is multiplication, right? We're talking about expansion. So every franchisor that we have a relationship with as suppliers represents in the field hundreds, potentially thousands of locations across the country or across the world. And so when you begin to multiply those variables and those moving parts, mistakes are inevitable. But in that sense, there are also great teaching moments. You are going to learn so much from what goes wrong or doesn't go the way that you thought it would. And I think being able to state out front that we are about to, at some point we're going to make a mistake, but that we'll be able to, one, acknowledge it, solve the problem, take ownership over it and solve the problem, and then improve the process from it, right? That's the point, and that these mistakes are going to help us become better partners and may help improve your brand overall. But to pretend that it isn't going to happen, to pretend that you know it all, is, I think, to do a disservice to yourself, and also there's a sort of it closes the books. You're not developing, you're not growing. If you're not making mistakes, you're not making any growth or change. So I think that embracing that, now that's all fine and good, but then when the rubber meets the road and something goes down and you feel that panic inside of you, you have to remember that that moment will pass, but this relationship will endure.
I agree.
Yeah, and if you've built a good relationship, it certainly helps to fix the mistake or maybe smooth things over, or at the very least, let the client know that they're dealing with professionals who, yes, we make mistakes once in a while, but if you've got that relationship in place, they know that you're going to fix it. They trust you. I'll tell a quick story. I had a new prospect who was recommended to me by another potential client this month. She's here in Chicago. We were going to get together and meet for lunch, and she sent me a calendar invite, and all it said was connect and break bread. That's all it said. No agenda, just connect and break bread. And I thought right away, this is going to be my new favorite customer, right? This is somebody who gets it before we're even talking about services or marketing or franchise stuff or anything. Connect and break bread. So if you build that relationship first, it's much easier to fix anything that we've broken after we've broken bread. It's a lot easier to, come up with solutions with that client when you've already maybe gone out and had a beer, or you got together at IFA for coffee, or, spent some time at some other franchise event, or maybe you had the opportunity to fly out and see them at their office. It's true for the franchisors as well. If I've got a relationship with the client, they make mistakes too, right? Sometimes they might not have the creative assets to you by the deadline that they promised, or they might have an invoice that's overdue. If we have a relationship built, I don't suddenly think, oh, these people are trying to get out of paying us, right? I know that they're professionals. I know that they're a legitimate company. We've got a relationship. And the last thing I'll say about that too is, if you've got that relationship built, it also allows the franchisor to kind of get within that circle of trust when it comes to things that might be outside your typical scope, right? If they're looking for help, maybe they're looking for help with something with their own career, or maybe they're just looking for advice on, some other program they're looking at, some other vendor they're considering. If you've got that relationship built, you can actually be honest with each other and help through some of those things. If it's just a transactional relationship, you're never really going to have that level of trust with the customer.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I love those insights. So what we're going to talk about next is bring value beyond your product and service. And I love this one because it's consulting, and no matter what service we bring, whether it's marketing, whether it's answering services, whether it's, payments or HR, no matter what it is, if we are consultants in our industry because we have partnerships, not only with the franchisors, but also with the other suppliers that we work with, we then become a knowledge-based powerhouse for the franchises that we work with, because now we understand what they're doing, what they need. And this is very helpful in the emerging section as well, but it can also give franchises that are potentially looking for new vendors an insight into, yes, they really do care because they've done research and they know about us and they know what we could need. And I love this slide, this take. And Derek, I'm going to have you start because we talked about this a lot and I really like your insight. So if you'd go ahead and start off on sharing that, that would be great.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think it really centers on the fact that the advantage we have within the franchise industry is that we are a community, right? Mm-hmm. And that there is such a wonderful amount of interplay between franchisor, supplier, franchisee, that there's so much knowledge sort of swirling around all of those different roles and perspectives. And then when you take even a step back, you see that, as all of us probably know, people switch jobs. You could be talking to a friend of yours, could be working with a supplier, and then 6 months from now, be working with a franchisor. So in a sense, like, we know way more than we even say we do when we're speaking for ourselves or for our brands or our companies. And I think as suppliers, we have an advantage and a responsibility to present that collective knowledge network in a responsible way, right? In a way that is, you're not quite matchmaking in terms of like, you don't want to necessarily pair your client with no sort of setup with another supplier. You need to understand what it is that they need, what's going to be best for their long-term growth. And then the way that we handle it really is we present it one-sidedly to our client to say, here are some of the people we know within the industry. Here are some of the providers or other suppliers we know that have specialties and expertise in the direction that we think might help you. Now, I'm not going to tell them about you. You tell me when you're ready to meet them.
Mhm.
Allow the client to set the cadence for that. Allow the client to do the outreach. Empower them to make that choice. But I think it goes back, Karen, to underlining the idea that we're consultants, right? That we are not salespeople necessarily. We are not transactional, and so all of that strength of the community, I think, really can be brought to bear and should be that added value to your relationship with the client.
Yeah, just a quick note on added value. This is something we saw a lot during the pandemic was suppliers who were thinking of giving something away for free and considering it added value, which sometimes you need to do that, right? But the thing I would caution against is ever giving away your core business products or services for free. I'll add value all day long when it comes to advice or some consulting or helping with some other problem. Again, back to helping people maybe make a career move or helping one of our clients find someone for an open position they have. That's not my core business. So I'm glad to do that and help all day long. What I don't want to get into is discounting a monthly fee, right? Because that's a slippery slope that, every time there's a bit of trouble or, some sort of world crisis, we can't start discounting fees every time. But what we can do is help with some of these other projects that they might need help with.
Mhm. Yeah, I really like that, Jack, because right now everybody is increasing their prices, and if we discount, then we're losing in a lot of different areas. So adding value is a great opportunity for us to win and also help our partners win as well. So being proactive, Jack, why don't you start there and share your insights on this?
Yeah, I'll throw another quote from a franchise legend, Jerry Darnell, who approached every new person he ever met with the question, how can I help you? What can I do for you? And I think it's that proactivity that people loved about Jerry. And I think there are many of us in the supplier community that are trying to be a lot like that. I have two rules for any of the other suppliers we work with in the group that Derek and Karen and I are a part of, and some other suppliers that we work with. Two rules. One, if somebody in the group needs help, help them. And two, if you need help, ask, because we might not know. So if you're building relationships, whether it's with other suppliers, with franchisors, other people in the franchise community, ask for help when you need it. You will receive help, right? But be proactive about it and offer whenever you can.
Eric?
I mean, I totally agree. I also think that some element of the proactivity can just smooth the logistics of working together, can make it a smoother, client relationship. The franchisor, your contact there, your particular person at that brand has a boss and other people and other things that they're doing, right? And so you want to first help them look good within the realm of their business and within the realm of their company. And you want to be able to make the right amount of decisions for yourself and for that relationship so that you're taking work off their plate, right? So that you if you see a problem and you see it first, speak up about it. And when you speak up about it, you should also have a solution. When you find a problem, also make a solution. When you see a place, an area of improvement, be there, be in front of it, because ultimately Anything that you're able to deliver to your contact, the person you're directly working with, is going to reverberate up the chain, down the chain, out into the field, right? But if you aren't at the forefront of that, if you aren't thinking about exactly what your expertise can mean to someone else, because remember, they don't work in your business. They've hired you to be the expert. They've hired you to be the consigliere, Jack. And to that end, the responsibility for that is you have to be able to apply your expertise in advance of them even knowing that they need it in some cases. And they will thank you for that because you're taking more stuff off their plate, and it will build more trust. They know that you've got it. They know that you're looking out for them. And I think just demonstrating it in those small ways really can add up.
Right. I agree. We have a program called Client Happiness, and I'm sure a lot of you here today do, where we check in on our current clients, ask, how's it going? And one of you, when we were having this conversation, said the worst thing you can do is sit back and wait for a client to need you. And I can't remember which one of you it was, but having that powerful, proactive conversation, how are things going? And getting that feedback and being able to change things is really the better side of the fence to be on than having somebody say, hey, we're done, or we need you. And the proactive approach I love, and it's also gives you a chance to share what you're doing and different value adds that you can bring to them. So it all kind of wraps into what we're talking about today. So our last slide before we take any questions is taking the long view. And I think all of these topics or slides that we've shared bring us to this. And the long view for me is, what does an ideal partner look like, and how does that fit into, your 2-year plan, your 5-year plan, your 10-year plan? And Jack, I think you're up. What does that look like in taking the long view for you?
Yeah, I think in this industry, there's only a long view. Derek and Karen both talked about the relationship building here being like a marriage. It's long term. This is not speed dating. I'm coming to you live from O'Hare, and I'm not schlepping around the country to get a 6-month deal or even a 12-month deal. These are clients that we want to take on for 2, 5, 10 years. Mm-hmm. It's just not worth the energy and the resources, and especially with the labor market we're looking at right now, we can't afford to take on clients for a 6-month project right now. We need long-term commitment. And, especially in some of the other industries that you guys are in, Derek specifically, this is not a one-time short-term project thing. This is something where you're, literally building someone's empire with them. So only taking on long-term deals, I think, is a mindset that everybody in this industry should consider. We've seen too many people come into the industry, show up at convention, have a booth, not get any sales in the first 3 months, and they leave. And to those people, we say, good luck. But I think everybody should consider only taking on clients that do have some sort of long-term commitment for them. It also allows you to pick and choose a little bit better and really make sure that they're a good fit for you, and not just take anybody who's going to show up with a certain amount of monthly for a setup fee, right? So so yeah, I would say just consider the long-term aspect and what you want to be doing with these clients 2 or 5 years from now.
Right. Derek?
That's perfect. I mean, at Northeast Color, we do so much homework, and we're so careful about who we choose to work with. We have a criteria that we judge potential new clients against when we're researching a client. We do everything from studying their brand on the back end, online, and reading everything we can about it, to actually doing site visits. So by the time we reach out to someone and we want to maybe talk about doing business with them, we've already determined whether or not there is a future there for us, whether we can actually bring value to them, whether it's worth the amount of time that we need to invest in the onboarding and the needs analysis. So we definitely we are not out there knocking on random doors. We're very strategic and very careful. And the reason is, if we're going to work together, we're going to work together, and we're going to commit ourselves to your brand. And that's not just me talking. That's like 50 people behind me at the company that I represent, right? Like, that's who we're speaking for, is everyone who's going to be working on these assets that are going to go out across the entire country and across the world in some cases. So that's, from a selection standpoint, that's where we take the long view. Once we're in that relationship, where are we going to be in a year, 2 years, 5 years, right? So that to us is like, we bring value engineering to the signage packages, right? We take a look at the signage package. How can we improve this with materials, make it easier to install, lighter to ship, any of those things? And the reason why we're doing that isn't just to save them a buck. It's to save everyone hassle. It's to make this experience smoother, right? Because if you're talking to us, you're either retrofitting a location or you're opening a new location. In either case, we want you to look your best, because after our inflection point, your business either begins or restarts, refreshes. And so how can we be sure that what we're doing is right for everyone? How can we be sure that solution is something that they're going to feel good about every single day that they open that business, that they walk into that location, they're reminded of the experience that they had with us? And in terms of where the brand goes in 2 to 5 years, we're constantly staying on top of any trends in the industry, from advantages that we've learned through our expertise in the client journey, to, again, just like the nuts and bolts of the materials, to trends in the industry, that we're able to really be that consultant and to help advise them on what we think is going to be a purchase of lasting value, right? We're not here for that transaction. We're here to build things with you, to make really new, cool things that help enhance that brand experience. So yeah, I think we're very careful, because when we commit, we're in it. So we don't second guess that.
And before we take questions, let's face it, when we're working with a franchisor, we're working with not only one party, but we're working with, maybe 5 brand new franchisees as an emerging brand, or maybe thousands of franchisees. And it's not a commitment that they're going to take lightly either. So all parties are engaged, and it's why the suppliers and the franchisors like to call it a franchise family. So I hope that everybody who was in this group today got a little insight as to what the supplier view is. And if you have any questions, we'd love to take the questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now. And Lauren, can you give us some information if we have any chat questions? Doesn't look like we have any chat questions.
I'm not seeing anything in the chat box.
I don't see any questions, but I would like to commend Derek for something he just said about considering the other people within your organization when taking on a new client. How is this going to affect the operations team? How is it going to affect my account management team? I had a boss many years ago who said there are clients and there are distractions, right? Make sure we're bringing on clients and not someone who's going to make your account management or operations team crazy, because now you're not going to serve your clients as well too. So keeping that in consideration when you're building that relationship with a customer, Derek, I think that's a terrific idea.
Awesome.
I love that.
Well, thank you all so much. Thank you, Karen, Derek, and Jack. This was excellent content and excellent feedback. We really do appreciate it. Again, this webinar was recorded, and along with the presentation deck will appear on our website early this evening. You'll be able to find that at community.franchise.org. Thank you very much again to Karen, Derek, Jack, and the Answer Connect team. And again, thank you everyone for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day and stay safe and healthy. Bye.